around. That was Cape John or Cairo, what was called. I'm not sure that includes that, because that's quite a few years ago. That was a very exciting trip.
So you've been to the Caribbean a bunch of times. What's your favorite Caribbean experience?
Well, I went with wasn't popular and wasn't well known. And very few Rhode Islanders had been there. Now, Monk Island was, how do we know Monk Island or who was going?
Monk Island was going?
There was some Bristol people. Trying to think how I happened to get started going there. It wasn't right on the main island. It was a little island of St. John, from St. Thomas with St. John. And somebody had a little sailboat there that we went on charter with. I told you that was the one that turned out to be, if Uncle Alan and his wife had gone, it would have been
pretty rough.
Yeah, it would have been
pretty close quarters.
Pretty primitive. So that was my first trip.
What was your favorite?
There was so much snorkeling. The fellow who ran this boat was a spear fisherman. He had an underwater gun, and he could shoot the fish that he could serve for supper on the boat.
What kind of fish did you have? Do you remember?
No.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So it was.
Do you remember what fish you saw? I remember seeing tons when I was a kid. So when you were there,
there was an awful lot of fish.
Yeah.
Oh, it was entirely different than it is now. And the fascinating thing was all these tiny fish. They'd be around a coral, and they'd swim in and out around the coral. They were tiny ones like that you'd see in an aquarium now, of all different designs. Absolutely. It was like diving into an aquarium that they were selling you. And they weren't very, they didn't all run away from you. You could just swim around and they didn't pay any attention to you. They went about what they were doing. So, and there were so many fish back then. It's really ridiculous now. There's more divers than there are fish now.
Yeah.
And it was absolutely astounding to me. I'd never seen anything like that. This big pinnacle of coral coming up and all these little fish swimming around. And you could walk right around and buy them, and they paid no attention to you. And they're all different colors and all different sizes and shapes. It was just like diving in an aquarium. I've never seen an aquarium as pretty as that.
Yeah.
And of course, it's never been like that since, because there's too many people. And all those disappear. So that was, and it was primitive. As I said, going now, we didn't stay in the big hotel. We stayed at this native cottage. And they moved out, and we heard the animals all night. I didn't sleep well because the local animals were there running around all night and making their regular noises. And
This is St. John?
Yeah. I was a city girl and not used to that. How that came about, how these people knew these people on St. John, and this was different from St. Thomas. I mean, you just skip it or throw away, but it was entirely different. It was like...
Nobody was going there at that time.
Yeah, nobody was going.
Was it Megan's Bay? Is that the...
No, Megan's Bay is part of... Part of St. Thomas.
St. Thomas.
Yeah.
What's the place in St. John that's so famous? That little.
In St. John?
Yeah. There's a beach and then there's a C-shaped
Oh, yeah.
area there.
I know what you mean, but I can't.
That's okay. I can see it in my head. I just was
Yeah.
curious.
Of course, there was sugar mills originally on St. John. There's the wreckage of a sugar mill there that was on their tour. There was really nothing to see in St. John for a tour, but people did, to get away with it, St. Thomas. St. Thomas was always very commercial.
Yeah, still is.
One thing that was interesting was, I'm not sure they called it the Gray Goose, but they called it the Goose. And it was a plane that had a body like a powerboat. And they had docks that ran down into the water. And I think there was one on St. Thomas and one on St. Croix. And you could go from one to the other faster than going on the commercial steamer that went between the islands. And if you wanted to go from one to the other, you go on the Goose. And it would it would bring you right up into the center of town on St. Croix. And it also went right into the center of town. You didn't have to drive in from an airport into where all the commercial area was. It went from one commercial area to the other without going through an airport.
It landed on water.
It landed on water, but the dock drove right down under the water.
Right.
Started below the water, and it came by boat and wheels.
Right, so both. It landed on the water and then went up the dock.
Yeah.
Got it. Huh.
Yeah, the dock was down under the water.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, it was under the water. And they called it the Goose. They don't do it anymore that way.
Well,
But it was much faster because instead of going from one airport to the other airport, the Goose landed right in the center of town. So you were right there. You didn't have to take a taxi. You could do your shopping and then go back to... You went for... I'm not sure where it landed in St. Thomas, but I remember going to St. Croix because I have a little blouse, not a blouse, a dress that I bought. And I went 20 years later and I wanted to get another dress. And I had talked to everybody that was with me into going to this place for these dresses.
Right.
And when I got there, it was all, St. Croix became run by the blacks somehow. It was run entirely by the blacks, and it went downhill. And the same store was still there, was still the same things. It hadn't changed any in the time, and it was...
So did you get your dress?
Well, the original dress I had a beautiful sea fan pattern on it. I still have it, and I didn't see anything that was really that great. But after I had talked to everybody to go to here, I had to buy a dress. So I bought another one.
Right.
It was the same material, and it was well made and all right, but it just didn't turn me on like the
original
one I wanted. But I didn't want to drag everybody over there to figure they wasted their time. That pattern I still have the one with the pattern I like. I save it just for going down the islands. It's a sundress with just the straps. I don't wear it around here because it's too short now to be stylish. I guess it's about, it's not that late.
No,
Good.
Oh, we're doing all right. Kendra's yawning. It's been a long day, and she's had a long, hard nap this afternoon.
Yeah, I had a
She did do the dishes.
Which I
wonderfully.
don't
Thank you.
ordinarily do.
You're welcome.